Sometimes it feels like it was like weeks ago. Anyways, so this week we're going to be talking about the housing bubble. If anybody has been in the housing market for more than 5 minutes in the last 6 months, you can tell that the housing prices have to been going way up, and at some point something's going to have to give. It's driving me crazy because it just seems that the prices just don't seem to be leveling off anytime soon. But in some markets, they have leveled off. And in other markets, they're even going down. So I have met up with a more active agent in the South area. I'm sure you guys have remembered him from a previous stream. His name is Jeremy Knight. He's going to be talking about what's going on in the Austin market. And it's a good catalyst of what's going around in the whole United States. I know that other states are seeing differences, but they all kind of will fall in line once the dominoes start falling. It all seems to change. It all seems to change. I know many people will argue with some of our analysis, and that's good. You can put your questions in there, and we don't mind a little combative conversation, but everybody has their opinion, and Jeremy is more than willing to share his. All right, Mr. Jeremy Knight. I know.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this year has been a good year for you as selling houses has gone. You have done, is it your best year selling real estate, or is it up there?
By far, I've doubled. This year alone, we've doubled our sales from 2019. So we've doubled them, and we were already a pretty productive team as it was. So it has been an incredible year. The only thing really slowing us down why we wouldn't have done more is not enough inventory. Otherwise, this year we probably would have done 6 or 7 million more in business this year. And it's crazy what's happening in our Austin market. In fact, I'm in the middle of doing a video, which will come out on Tuesday, talking about the Texas markets in general. So not just about Austin, but it is, it's kind of crazy to see what's going on. I mean, our market is like our Austin market is like a lot of the other Texas markets right now. And so, it's kind of insane.
Okay. So what really people want to know, especially people that are buyers, is do you feel that in the next 6 to 12, let's just say even a year and a half, the housing prices are going to drop? When is the bubble going to pop? Because it can't keep going up like that. It's unsustainable.
Yeah. And, you're kind of getting a biased opinion because you're talking to a realtor. But if you follow my YouTube channel, which I know you do, I break things down simply and try to give people information and be honest about things. I'm not, and even clients that come to work with us, I tell them, look, I'm not here to sell you a home. I'm here to protect you. Number one. Number two would be to sell you a home. So I've never worked to sell a home just to make a buck. So, we want to put people in the position to make money in the future. If you're going to buy a home, you're investing. Even if you're buying a home for you and your family, it's an investment. So that being said, bubble popping. This is the question I think everybody has on their mind, right? We're seeing forbearance numbers skyrocket. We're seeing unemployment numbers increase. Right after the beginning of March, especially in the Austin market, unemployment rates rose to almost, I think it was like 13% unemployment, which I know in Austin was down to 3%. Which was well below the national average. And so since then, we've seen pretty much all over Texas, we saw around that level, probably 12 to 15% in each market. And it's dropped down pretty significantly. We're back down in the fours. For most of our markets, we're in the fours as far as unemployment rates. So that's having a pretty big impact on our markets. And we're seeing, prices escalate quickly. So what does that mean for next year is really the main question, what people want to know. And so I think what people need to understand is that, especially in Texas, so many people are moving to Texas, right? They're avoiding their lockdown situations, right? They're avoiding some of the really aggressive measures that have been taking. Look, I'm not here to downplay any of the current. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want you to get demonetized, but the current situation with the pandemic,
It is what it is at this
it
point.
is, but it's kind of insane that interest rates are still so low. There's very little inventory. And does that inventory lighten up next year? The speculation is that we're going to see a lot of foreclosures. I just don't see, we could use 30% more inventory in our markets just to level out. I mean, everybody's around 1.2 months of inventory, which is stupid low. So the middle of next year, we might see some issues with that.
Yeah. I'm ready to budget right here because there's a couple things that are going to happen. Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be 9 months? Is it going to be 12 months? It's going to happen. There's too many people that are out of work. They have not gotten any stimulus checks. That's over 10 million people that are still on unemployment that wouldn't typically be on unemployment. They're not being able to pay their rent. So more people that own rental properties and have mortgages are not able to pay that. Another thing is the fact that you got to remember that there was a crippling of the supply chain of building materials. Well, that supply chain has now been released. There is going to be more building materials available. So that means more new construction is going to be on the market. So that's going to be.
Does it?
Yes.
Does it mean they'll be new, or do you think builders will?
Nope. They got to get these. They have land that they've purchased. They have to build these houses. They have no choice. They can't just let it sit there. They have people they have to pay. The wheels have got to be going, especially when they've got backup of people that are saying, I will wait to purchase a house until it's done. So they're like, well, I've already got the money. I've already got the deposit. I'm going to build these houses. So, we don't have the supply chain problem. So builders are going to build again. People are going to start losing their houses. So foreclosures are going to go up. There doesn't look like anytime soon that the Fed has already said we're too late on giving people stimulus on their money. It's a trickle effect that's going to happen. It's not going to look like 2007, but it's impossible to think that the housing prices are going to rise that high continuously for the next year or year and a half. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well,
I could be wrong.
Right. Well, I'm not saying the prices are going to continue to go skyrocket. I'm just saying over the last 2 years, especially, we've seen them skyrocket. I think builders are going to be smart about what they do. I know what we're seeing in Austin is kind of unheard of. Our prices are still 14% increases. Those builders used to give out incentives for people to come into their communities. They're not. You could walk in and get $15,000, $20,000 towards incentives for upgrades in your home, or get closing costs for purchasing using their lender. Builders in Austin are not doing that. Builders in Texas, in major markets, aren't doing that as much. San Antonio, I know they're still offering some incentives, but those incentives are out of the window. And so, yes, I do think that there's going to be a leveling effect. I think there are going to be foreclosures. The Texas market, if you're looking to invest, I don't think that the prices are going to dip at all in Austin, Texas. Some markets. You know what?
12 months from now, if they have not dipped, I owe you $100.
Define dip, because in 2008, when we had our recession, our prices maybe went down 14%. Nationally, they were close to 50%. So, and then the reason what fueled that is builders stopped building. So our bounce back was a lot faster in the Austin market. So that's why you've seen prices escalate. I mean, I moved here in 2013. And a house that I bought in a neighborhood is now $300,000 more than what I purchased it for. I mean, legitimately. And I don't see that stopping, especially because, I'm looking at our Austin market with the amount of people moving here for tech jobs and things like that. Those people that are forced to sell because they're in a bad situation, somebody's there lining up to buy it. I mean, I literally have at least 50 plus buyer clients in my bag looking to buy homes, and there's nothing for them to buy right now. So yeah, I think there will be a leveling. I think prices will level. Are they going to dip? I mean, we've again 14% increases month over month.
Maybe
We
not in
might see
Austin, but
right.
I'm telling you places like Orlando, Florida,
Oh, for sure.
Las Vegas, some areas around California that have been overvaluated to begin with.
I
I
think
mean,
California is
even
going to be
some
an interesting, and you're going to see something very interesting happen in California. I saw it in 2008. Yes, it's totally different. I mean,
Florida
I
too,
I was one of
Miami.
those people that moved to California because the market crashed because I could finally afford something. I
Mhm.
mean, I know we have clients now that are selling their homes for ungodly amount of money and coming over here. Not all of them buying cash, but putting $200,000 to $300,000 down on a house, and they're buying, five, six, $800,000 homes that are way nicer than what they had in California. Um, and that's not slowing down. I mean, it's really not. You know, I live in Austin. Should I refinance? House valued at 260. I owe 175. I think if you're going to refinance, you just want to run the numbers. Everybody, this is a question that a lot of clients have asked me. If you put your house in the market, it's going to sell really high. Unfortunately, you're going to be in a market where you're going against 10, 12 offers on a property going 30 to $50,000 over right now. Is that going to continue? No, I think really by July of next year, we're going to see kind of a shifting in our market. So I would run the numbers for you because I would have to, what your mortgage is now and what your rate is going to be. 75,000 is not a lot. So I think that would be pretty awesome to refi for 2.25% and have no mortgage and then go buy something else.
I think you have to have at least $65,000 that you have to like. You can't finance anything under 65,000. Most lenders won't let you do it. I mean, so
Yeah.
you're gonna. I think you might have a hard time if you only owe
Yeah.
75,000. Anne says she has. I'm really confused as to why unemployment has went up, but housing has went up. I think the market will be down if unemployment is up. All right, so I have my answer for this, and then you can give yours. So the thing is that this was forced unemployment. It wasn't
Correct.
something that continuously happened. It was like all of a sudden the world just kind of shut down. And it didn't have that trickle effect that we don't like when it happened in 2007. It was trickling down. We were starting to see just a few foreclosures, and everybody kind of knew that those loans were a little sketchy, and people were speculating on those weird, stated income loans that they were giving out. Many investors already knew they were garbage, and they were hedging their bets against the market falling out. So once it's really started, the numbers really started showing, and then more and more big companies were having huge corporate layoffs. Then it was like, you could tell once it had hit the news and it was happening in like record speed. But this was all of a sudden we're open and we're closed in March, and it just was forced unemployment.
Yeah, I mean,
And
this is definitely different than 2000, what we saw in 2008 for sure.
right.
You know, I think to answer the question is that there was some stimulus that did help, even though people went on unemployment. There was some
It was
stimulus that did help.
$1,200.
But that helps. I mean, every
$1,200.
little bit helps.
Give
The
me a
other thing is
break.
that there's so many investors that are out there scratching to buy properties because inventory's been low. So
Mm.
stuff that, if somebody wasn't in unemployment and went to the investor to sell their home, there's investors lined up. I have investors email me, call me every single day. It's the point I'm frustrated with even talking. I don't want to talk to any more investors. And that's like, oh, you sell real estate, you should want to talk to investors. No, I'm tired of it because they want to lowball everything. Everything's over list price as it is. And I had to hold their hand for them to realize that the Austin market, especially, is not very investor friendly. And then I try to tell them to go look at Dallas or San Antonio, and then they get frustrated and they go buy in North Carolina or Idaho. I don't know.
And the other reason why there was such
Austin
a,
is in
a
Texas.
huge uptick
It's
in home
Cali.
buying. Another reason for the huge uptick in home buying was because the fact that interest rates were so low and they remained
Right.
low. So first-time home buyers, which usually drive the market to moving in the right direction in the first place, are the ones that were really jumping on the boat And then a lot of people that lived in the big cities were like, you know what, forget this. This whole like shut down the whole city and be crammed in a apartment building or a condo. They were like, forget it. We're selling this. We're moving out. And then so that caused another little flurry. And then there was a ton of people in California that said, I'm not living in California anymore. Between the wildfires, the taxes, the shutdowns, we're moving to Texas. And a lot of people moved to Texas. We've had a few here in the Baton Rouge area. There's a lot heading towards New Orleans. So that had a lot to do with it. And I know in New York, they're leaving the bigger parts of New York and getting towards more of the more rural areas, especially around Pennsylvania. So that's what caused it.
Some of the comments are Austin isn't Texas, it's Cali. Look,
it's getting that way.
it is for sure. I have if you ever go to my channel, I have my complaints about specific things going on in Texas, in Austin. But looking at the Texas markets in general, they're still seeing price increases. I mean, I'm literally in the middle of doing a video pulling the stats for every single market. Every single market's still seeing, well, almost every single market is still seeing increases.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you want, I can pull up and show you the numbers. I mean,
no, you
San
can't.
Antonio,
Go ahead.
Dallas, yeah, almost all of them. Maybe, okay, Midland is seeing massive growth. These are all markets across Texas. I mean, you're looking in December next year, maybe not. I mean, maybe not as high, but as of right now, yes, they are still going up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're still going up here. Was it at the rate as it was 3 months ago? No. I think we're having more of a flattening out. And that's what I'm hearing from other real estate agents, that it hasn't dropped. It hasn't even really, like, some of them are just starting to just kind of flatten out. I mean, I don't know about that's why you're here from Texas. I don't know about the Texas market, but even some people like outside Orlando, I've talked to some people in Fort Lauderdale. I've talked to some people, they said that they've had a flattening of the market, and even in North Carolina as well. So it was interesting to see everybody's perspective, and everybody, that's the whole key. Everybody's real estate market is going to be completely different. So what's happening in Newark, New Jersey is going to be completely different than what's happening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or in Houston, Texas, or wherever. So just always work with them. You
also have to look at the restrictions in those cities, right? I mean, if you look in restrictions in California, if you're looking lockdown restrictions across pretty much the nation, where people are being locked down and forced to not work anymore, they're getting out of there and moving to places where they can. Texas is less restrictive as of now. I know the city of Austin would love to shut everything down all over again. It's just not going to happen. We have too many guns for that. So that's not going to happen. So, the reason why, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's nobody in here in Texas that's going to allow another shutdown. It's just not going to happen. And, that's why people from other markets, that's why I'm getting calls from California, from New York, everywhere. Now, a lot of these markets that people are moving to aren't going to see a slowdown because there are jobs available. I mean, if you're looking at the unemployment rates going down in a lot of these cities in Texas, that's why people are moving here. I mean, there are jobs available. They're all good, high-paying jobs with tech companies available now. If you need to sell now. Yeah, I would agree. If you need to sell now for sure, because you're going to get right now. I would say, if we're going to predict when things bubble out, right? And I'll talk specifically about the Texas markets. I think July of next year, we're going to see a pretty catastrophic thing start to happen. And here's where I think the biggest problem with our markets is going to face. Now, is it enough to see massive dips? No, but I think it is something that we're going to have to look out for. And as a realtors in Texas wide, we need to be aware of this and cognizant of this, is that when people went on forbearance, it put off their payments, but most homeowners escrow their taxes. And our property taxes in Texas are the highest, one of the highest in the nation, as far as percent wise, because we don't have an income tax. So if you're a homeowner in Texas and you went on forbearance and you haven't paid a mortgage payment in because it's up to 12 months, right? So you have 6 months, and then if you need it again, it's another 6 months. For 6 months, a lot of homeowners, 30%-ish, I mean, I haven't seen an actual perfect stat on this, but 30 to 34% of homeowners were having a hard time making their payments, right? Just making their payments. So if you were making partial payments or weren't paying all of your property taxes, what's going to happen is those property taxes are still due. So around February, you're going to start seeing tax liens of 7% because it's 6% and they add another tack on another one. And then you're going to see a 2% increase after that all the way till July. And what happens in July? July turns around and you'll see a 20% increase because they hire an attorney. The city will hire an attorney against you because you haven't paid your taxes. And if you haven't pulled out a plan and started putting a plan in place to make those delayed tax payments, we're going to have a lot of homeowners have massive tax liens. And I think that is going to be one of the biggest things that no one's talking about it. No one's thinking about it, talking about it. Nobody's paying attention to it. I think and my video that's going out Tuesday is going to be, I'm probably be one of the first people talking about this problem. And so foreclosures are going to be an issue, but I think people are going to be going to foreclosure because of issues like that.
I have a question. Most people that have a mortgage, they don't have their taxes separate from their mortgage. It's tied in. So how is it that they're not going to, right? So how, so if they're
not making their payments, right? So if you had 6 months off, you're not paying your taxes either.
Oh, I didn't even think about this. Okay. So there is no, when an escrow works is that it's taking a little bit of your mortgage payment and putting it towards your taxes. If you took the forbearance and it was up to 6 months, they haven't collected 6 months worth of taxes.
Correct.
I didn't even think of that. Wow.
Nope.
How did I not think of that? That was smart. Nope. Wow. I didn't even think of that.
So
they'll write them they'll write the mortgage company saying they haven't paid it. So then the mortgage company can go after you as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know that
the mortgage company is going to come to you and say, hey, you haven't paid your taxes. Now we need to assess all these fees on top. Or you can pay now. So by February 1st of next year, we will start to see some panic selling. And I think that's where I don't think it's enough to see prices decrease because they've been coming up so high. But I do think starting February, we will start to see, instead of seeing 14% increases, maybe we start seeing 4 to 5% increases versus those same 13, 14% increases that we've seen. I think other markets in Texas, though, Houston is one of those. It's probably going to be hit first by that. I think San Antonio will probably not be hit as hard as maybe Austin will. I think Austin will be hit by that. So we'll start seeing more inventory between really February and July. And then here's a crazy thing about Texas is that really within 60 days of you missing, start having these issues and not making payments, they can foreclose pretty much at any time. There's no set time when they can foreclose on a tax lien.
Right.
So I think that is one of the biggest issues and then look, if you think about it, a lot of, cities, especially like Austin, needed all of this. We have all these events every year and we shut down all these events, ACL, South by Southwest, all these huge events. And what's going to happen is that we needed that tax money. We're out that tax money. And on top of that, and I think this is where Austin's could see some major issues. We passed Prop A and Prop B, which is actually significant tax increase on homeowners in the middle of COVID. Sorry, I just demanded. Sorry, killed your channel. Sorry. But in the middle of this pandemic, we raised taxes on homeowners again. That tax starts next year. So it'll be assessed on next year. So it's going to come out not until 2022 really is when it's going to hit. But that tax bill in June, people are going to look at it and they said, oh, okay, it's only like $28 a month, whatever. It's nothing. It's going to be a small bill. We need the light rails. It's great. Look, I think we need some reprieve on our light rails, but putting a massive tax on homeowners now and burdening homeowners now is the dumbest thing Austin could have ever done. It is the stupidest thing they could have ever done.
Lily Chang is a new member. She said she just joined, and our San Francisco house has been on the market for 10 months, and they just dropped the housing price to $400,000. So San Francisco it could be a start of a place that's now. Lily, I don't know how your house was priced, but do you believe it was overpriced when you started with? Because that can always cause a hamper in things. And I know that the shut downs have caused a problem for real estate agents, especially at the beginning of showing properties. So we didn't know what we were going to do. And I believe in Pennsylvania, they wouldn't even let real estate agents show houses, no matter how they were rejected. They were a spacesuit, they were like, nope.
There's a question in there from Raymond about Denver. So I have a lot of agent friends in Denver. And I've talked about the Denver market. The Denver market's very similar to the Austin market. Just if you look at them side by side, they're pretty close. maybe not the same job pool going there, but they're pretty close. I think Denver is going to probably see some of the same issues that Austin sees. So I think you probably will see a leveling. I don't think Denver's, I mean, I'm not a professional in Denver, but I don't see a massive turn in Denver. How about that?
I did speak to somebody who does work that area, and they were like, the housing prices are so unsustainable and the sellers are getting so incredibly greedy that he was like, I don't know how much longer it's going to stay like this, is what he told me. He's like, I don't know how much longer it can. But they do have a lot of, other companies that have come in, but they've had some companies that came out. So it's kind of like everybody's kind of like sitting on the edge of their seat. But I will say this, that one of the biggest economists that have predicted the housing bubble in 2007, 2008, 2009, people laughed at him because in 2006 and 2005, he said, this is unsustainable. It's absolutely craziness. There's no way that this is sustainable. Stop buying houses. Investors stop buying houses. And he hedged all of his bets against the housing market. And guess what? He's a billionaire now. And so he's saying right now, he's like, this is the same thing. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen again. I'm hedging my bets against the housing market. And he's like, it's not going to look the same. He says that the unemployment rates numbers are misleading on what people are saying, and the people going back to work is misleading. And he's saying that there's a lot of people that, some of them have gone back to work, but half the family hasn't gone back to work because they're at home, taking their kids. So they're going to be spending less money. They're going to be, there's only one income that's working right now. And so, like he said, that the market is definitely going to shift. Those were his words. I can't think of his name at the top of my head, but he's a brilliant man all the same.
Yeah. And I definitely will not disagree with him there, but I think it's going to be a market by market. Each market's going to be different. The Texas markets weren't hit like California. I mean, I lived in Phoenix at the time of the last crash. And I mean, literally I bought a house in California. It's originally $700,000. I paid $350 for it. In 2009. So I just don't see we're not going to see, I just have a hard time seeing a 50% correction in this market. Maybe will we see a 15% in most markets, 25%, 50% like we saw. I can't get there with that. I think that there's just, this scenario that we're seeing is a different scenario than we did in 08. I don't know. I just can't see it. I mean, I've read everything I could read, and there's a lot of writing on the wall, and I agree. I just don't see that the bubble is going to be the same bubble that we had last time. And again, I'm sitting in a market that is still booming. So I'm looking at it from a different perspective, but there are markets across the country that are going to be hit significantly hard, especially California, that are still locked down and locking down again.
I'm asking you a question, Jeremy.
Sure.
Justin says, I thought the property tax gets paid by the mortgage receiver and the second lien is placed on the home, allowing for you to pay off the end of the loan.
Right. But the mortgage holder still has to take the taxes. So if they're not taking the taxes and not paying it for you, they're not getting paid.
Yep. And Karen says the right thing. He says, you still owe the taxes, even if the mortgage company puts your payments at the end of your loan. That's
Correct.
Right. So Lily says, hi, not overpriced. We couldn't hold an open house in March and everyone is in San Francisco. It's still in the millions, but it's a big apartment building. Thanks for reading my comment. Of course. Yep. I'm not real familiar with the San Francisco market. I do have a friend that has a house out there, but he says it's still moving. He says it's still moving. He says the restrictions have made it difficult for everybody, though, and it isn't just us. And
I've had a fair amount of people reach out to me from the Bay Area. Maybe not. Well, I've had quite a few actually from San Francisco, but from the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Most of them are moving here, are holding on to their properties in California.
Do you know where Clearwater Lake is? Clearwater Lake, is that an area in Texas?
Clearwater Lake, I think that's in Florida, isn't it?
Oh, that's what I thought too. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You go ahead. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
interrupted.
No, so I think that what we've seen in 2020 and what we'll see in probably half of 2021 is that first time home buyers that are down payment assistance, that are FHA borrowers, that are putting 3.5% down, that, and especially in my market now, that aren't able to get homes by July of next year will start having a little bit, they'll start to be able to push their way into the market a little bit more. And I think that's why I have a hard time seeing the markets change so much, is because there are so many buyers in their pool and there's just not enough inventory. And that's a
They
lot
said
of
that.
Texas.
They said that before. Those words came out of people's mouths before. They're like, "I have so many people in my pipeline." I'm praying. They'd say, "I'm praying for the fact that we get a little bit more inventory." And it was like one
Mhm.
day somebody ripped open the sheets like this, and there's a ton of houses on the market, and there was no buyers. It was you actually almost could feel it in the air. Was so weird. The phones just stopped ringing all at once. Craziest thing you've ever seen. And I was selling my house in Florida at that time. It was
Well, I mean,
insanity.
well, look, it's tough because there are a lot of investors that have been trying to find properties. So should we see that floodgate open? I think a lot of those investors might hold on and may wait 6 months to see what the market does and then buy, but they're still out there. I mean, they still need to put their money to good use.
I'm thinking though that the somebody like I'm sure he was saying something about the forbearance. The question was a little bit off, but he was just saying, what about the forbearance? Okay, so here's the thing. There is about how many they? Oh God, it's like either 10 million, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole heck of a lot of people in forbearance. The problem is the people that are going past the time that their mortgage company allowed them to take forbearance, they're still not paying. Some companies that had the forbearance wanted it in like a balloon payment. Forgive my dogs. So that balloon payment is now due and they don't have the money because they don't have a job or there's only one income coming in. So some of them are just writing it out and waiting for the company, mortgage companies to basically evict them. They're hoping that the CARES Act, the new CARES Act, whatever that's going to be passed next time, is going to be basically the Band-Aid on the heart attack before it explodes and they have to move out of their houses. I've heard that a few times.
Well, I mean, think about it this way, and again, I'm looking primarily in the Texas markets and in Austin. Um, Somebody that's in that situation where they need to get out of that situation.
Mhm.
A lot of people, because we've seen these prices kind of skyrocket especially in the last 2 years, they have equity. So I think a lot of these people are going to start putting their homes on the market in February. So we will start to see a flood of inventory in February. I think we'll see a lot of that get purchased. And then by July of next year, that's when I think the second round of this starts to hit, because
Mhm.
people will, that were late to getting their homes on the market or now facing more serious issues with tax liens and things like that. So I think really second part of 2021 is going to be hit hard. To be completely honest with you, where the bubble where the bubble bursts is not 2021. It's 2022.
Well,
That's
here's
where
the
we're going to see the bubble burst. It's not
and we're doing
2021.
and we're just talking about single family properties, but what about the people that are investors
Commercial.
that have people that have been renting properties? And a lot of these areas have said, well, you can't collect rent because we have a shutdown, but they still have a mortgage to pay. So now they're behind on their mortgage because you can't, like my mortgage company, because I have mortgages on some of my rental properties. I could not stop payments. I had to continue to pay my mortgage, whether there was a moratorium on mortgage rents or not. And those people could still live there free. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? What about those investors? They're going to lose a lot. And a lot of those rental units are going to end up empty as well. It's just another thing to think about.
But you're going to have to look at market specific though. You can't say nationally it's going to have the same.
I just said it's one of those
Right.
things you got to look at. I'm not saying this is the gold standard of what.
Right.
It's just one thing to think about when it comes to some of these markets, because we don't have a huge rental market here. So that won't affect Baton Rouge too much. But in other areas, they do have big rental markets like New York, Boston, and even some areas in Houston, Texas, they have a huge rental area. So, and then think about the people that have rental properties around colleges. A lot of the colleges went online, so they haven't had anybody renting those houses, and they have mortgage payments.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think you're wrong by any means. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
I just think if you're thinking of a 2008, 2009 correction, I have to wholeheartedly disagree with you. But I do think we will see a softening in a lot of markets, and we probably won't see price increases like we did. We won't in 2021. We will not see the same price increases that we saw in 2020, especially in my market.
Well, flat.
Right? And I think it'll definitely flatten. But again, I will wholeheartedly say this: 2021 is going to look a lot different than 2022. And I think if things don't happen in the right direction in 2021, 2022 will be when we see I forget, I passed it. As Mike Shaw said, the bubble burp, nearly not as bad as the bubble bust. Thanks for making fun of my misspeaking a burp bubble thing. But yeah, I think 2022 is where we're going to see a lot of problems, because I think there's not enough money that's going to be pumped into the economy to help. There's not going to be enough help, like you said, for investors that are holding on to these properties near campuses and things like that. I don't see it hitting as hard in 2021 as it will in 2022.
Yeah, because people have enough capital to hold on to it for just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then the banks hold on to these properties too, because they're like,
Yeah.
well, we don't want to flood the market with a bunch of our dumped properties. So we'll just hold on
Right.
to these, and then we're going to put out a few of these, and then we'll put out a few more, because they don't want to flood the market with foreclosed properties. They do it all the time. They did it, and they've done it. They keep doing it. And it's funny because it's like, oh, you already know when they have decided to like unleash a few properties, because all of a sudden you look at the MLS and it's like, how did 20 new properties get on the market in Prairieville? Oh, it was a foreclosure dump. Okay, so Gail says, my sister has been able to keep paying her rent because her husband has a lot of flexibility in his employment, but her house is a total slum and she's afraid to complain in case the owner sells. Yeah, that happens, and we worked with our renters, because I was afraid. We didn't have the moratorium here for rent in Louisiana, thank God. But I was afraid it was going to happen. So what I did was, before they even announced anything, I went up to each one of our renters. Well, my husband did. And I told them, look, this is how much our mortgage payment is. Just pay, if we split it, this is how much it would cost. I just need you to cover my mortgage, and we will forget about it until this is all over with. And they went, really? And I'm like, yes, really. And they paid on time every single time. And that was like, I was like, all we need to do is save it. That's all we have to do is save the house. That's it. Right. We don't have to, we're not trying to make a mint right now. Everybody's going through enough, but
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought I was stupid for doing that, but I'd much rather do that and get something instead of nothing.
Right.
It's just one way to do it if you're a landlord, to do that. If you guys have a question, go ahead and do in bold print question, and then write your question so we can answer them. It's hard to tell when the chat is moving so quickly. Mandate is not
it's a
law.
very vibrant chat today.
I'm like listening to, it's hard for me to see everybody. I know that there's been some really active people. Thanks, Jeremy and Denver. Stay strong.
Austin, Denver. Yeah.
Yep. And it says crash, 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 crash. Some people and I will say this, Sebastian, there are people that can't wait. Like they're on the edge of their seat. I'll tell you, some first time home buyers are hoping because the interest rates are
And that's
so
what
low.
I've been saying. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm telling you. There's so many, yes, there will be more inventory, but there are first time homeowners that are just waiting and there's nothing to purchase. And where they're going, especially in my market, 20 to 50, 30 to $60,000 over list price to get it. I know I brought Rebecca on my channel on Friday, and we talked, the Dallas market's very similar. Maybe not 50,000 over list price, but they're still seeing like 10 to 20,000 over list price for a lot of properties.
So I can answer this one. It says, why are construction loans on hold, like combining property with manufactured homes? I know the loan process has gotten a lot slower because a lot of mortgage companies are working with so many people are refinancing right now, and there's just so many people purchasing them. Another thing is that some construction loans are difficult because you can't get all the things that you need to have done to the property prior to rolling it all together. For instance, you need a well, you need utilities, and all those things are rolled into what they call a new construction loan. So that has been causing the problem where it's slowing down. And if you're waiting
they
on,
stopped jumbo loans too for a
and they
while.
stop. Well, this is they're talking about a manufactured home, so
Right.
it would not be considered a jumbo loan, which would be like loans over X amount of dollars. So. Yeah, that's another thing. And I know that manufactured home companies have actually increased their prices because they haven't been able to get the building materials that they need to build their manufactured homes because of all the events that have happened.
Right. But you said the
Fires,
supply chain's better now.
yeah, it's actually it's not as crippled. I'm just saying what is happening right this very moment. It's going to be getting better.
And right now, builders in general are facing problems with appliances, with getting materials in general. We've had closings pushed back because the builder didn't have the range hood to put in, didn't have the stove to put in. I mean, legitimately, it's kind of crazy the excuses they've had. I mean, they're legitimate excuses. If you can't get it, you can't get it. But this, this problem that we've seen hasn't hurt just resale homes and the inventory there, but it's also hurt new build communities. And I think that's why they're no longer in giving incentives, is because really don't have to. They have a book pile of people waiting to get into some of these homes. I mean, I've told this story and not very many people know that this actually happened. The only reason we know it happened is I actually talked to a rep who's like, please don't tell anybody this. You can't tell me that. So in Austin, there is a community. Yeah. Note to self. When you say something like that, I'm going to tell people because this is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. So one of the builders here, so instead of taking a list of people and then say, here's the 3 lots, let's take 3 people. Do you want any of these lots? No. Okay. We're moving you up the list. What they did is they said, okay, we have these 5 to 10 lots. What we're going to do is we'll allow these 30 people to bid on, or it was actually more than that. It was 200 people to bid on these lots. So the way new builds work, especially in Austin, is that you pay a lot premium, then there's the base price of the house. And then once you get into the base price of the house, you might not like all the standard features, which is just basically a standard home. So then you got to do all the upgrades in the home. So that costs more. So you have, some of these, unless, neighborhoods under 300K, maybe you have a $5,000 lot premium, but a lot of the lot premiums in Austin around this area are $15,000 to $75,000. That's, it's different neighborhoods. But what they did is they said, okay, here's the 10 lots we have. They had 200 people bid on the lots. People were bidding $200,000 just for the lot. So in a neighborhood, I'll give you this is the neighborhood
overinflated. It's overinflated.
Yes, exactly. And they're gouging people. They're gouging. And this is the most offensive thing I could have ever heard. That's why I'm telling it, because it's the most offensive thing I've ever heard. Because as a real estate agent trying to help my client, now I'm going, okay, well, now you got to pay $200,000 for a lot in a neighborhood that's a $400,000 build. The base price for the house is really only like $440,000. And then you have, the top end price of these neighborhoods was maybe $500,000, but that's shooting the prices to $700,000 in a neighborhood that's $450,000. It's the most predatory thing I've ever heard. And it is the most unethical thing I've ever heard. It wasn't just this one community, it's other communities. I think they've got a little pushback on it, so they're not doing it fully this way. But there are people under contract. Oh, and here's the worst part of it. They made you sign saying that if it didn't make appraisal, you still had to make up the appraisal difference.
Yeah, well, the sellers and builders, all of them have gotten a lot more aggressive, and they're like, "Hey, you don't want it? Then fine, we'll just go to somebody else." And then they're like, people have that FOMO, fear of missing out. So some of them actually sign, and you're like, as a real estate agent, you're telling them this is not a good idea, and they're getting pulled in so many directions, and they want a house so badly, and I'm like, "You're going to regret this. Don't do this." I mean, I would rather you not buy a house and I make no money than you buy a house and be in bad shape in a few years because you can't sell.
Well, the worst part is we become the bad guy too. You know, when you're telling them, no, don't do this, you become the bad guy. And that's in that scenario when we're telling clients, luckily that client is a client, the client that we were going to get into that situation and listen to me is a client that we've sold. They bought and sold 4 homes with me over the years. And so we found them a different community a little bit further out than they wanted, but tax rate was low, right? Like I said, taxes are high
in Texas.
Yeah. And schools were still great and all that. So we found something else for them. But I mean, if it was I've had clients, you know, when I tell them, no, don't do that, they fired me and go hire somebody else. Well, good, go do that.
Yeah, because I want to sleep at night.
When you call me 6 months later and you're having issues, the first thing I don't want to have to say to anybody is I told you so. But then it becomes like, how do I help you? Because now you're in a bad situation. How do I help you out of this? I try to not get you in this situation. So
I know. Well, Max has a question. He says, what if the interest rates rise because of the low interest rates? Are they unsustainable?
That's the question.
Yep.
That's the question, if they rise. And I think that's the biggest problem with all of this of looking at 2021 is there's a lot of ifs, right?
Yeah.
If this, if that, if this, if that. Yes. If they go back up to where they were before all this happened in the 4.1 to 4.25, 4.5,
which is still really crazy low.
Which is still crazy low.
It's still crazy low, but we have to keep it low. Somebody even said that we might even, if the housing starts to get foreclosures and everything, we might even see like interest rates even lower. It's a guess. It's a guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible, but and then again, I never thought I'd see him in the 2s in my lifetime. So, MK said something, anything from Biden administration on home buying, like a $1,500 credit. So years ago, $15,000 credit. So years ago when they had the housing crisis, the last time they did do a buyer's credit, which first of all, the first time was taxable and I had to pay it back. The second time it was not. They were like, go home buyers, go buy it. And it was really encouraging new home buyers to go buy a house. They haven't said anything about home buyers, and they haven't said anything for investors that own rental properties to help save them. That hasn't been mentioned yet. So I'm hoping like they said, the newest one that's going to come out, they're hoping that it will get done before January 20th. They're trying to push for it. They said both sides say things are looking promising. Whatever that means, but things are looking promising that we will have a little band-aid before the new administration comes in. We'll see what he does. My hope is that they address housing, and not just because of what's happening, but I want them to come up with more affordable housing options for people that are making less than, $100,000 a year, because the way the world works now, unless you're making $100,000 a year, the housing options are pretty limited. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the hard part. How do you make it affordable for people? You end up taxing other people. And so how does it become affordable? Right. How do we make it affordable?
It's been done before, and they've done it before. And after World War II, they made communities that were for people that were, coming back from war, that were on very limited incomes, and they could do it again. They've done it before, and they could do it again.
Well, you have to have land for that. So you got to buy the land.
Well,
you got to find the land for that. So my point is that in most markets, you can't do that in California.
No, you couldn't do it in California, but there's plenty of areas you could. You could
probably do it in parts of Texas.
I think the other thing too,
the problem you run into is utilities. And I think that's a problem too that people don't pay attention to in Texas, is that we don't have we run into water issues during droughts. just like California does. And so one thing that we always see whenever there's a kind of a drought is that neighborhoods freak out, and builders have to be very cognizant of getting utilities to those areas. And so that will be probably an issue for affordable housing, is getting the right utilities and actually having water and utilities there.
Well, it's a problem here too, because we have flood zones. Utilities is always an issue. They're asking about townhouses in North Carolina. We are not real estate agents in that area. If Lisa, if you want to find a real estate, I have some friends that are in North Carolina, are real estate agents. If you want to reach out to me, you can email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com, and I'll get you connected with a real estate agent in the North Carolina area. I have in many towns. So I know lots of real estate agents in North Carolina. All right. There was
going
another
back to that $15,000 thing. You're right. It was for first time home buyers.
Right. Or if you hadn't bought a house within the last 7 years. So
the problem with that becomes you have to have inventory for that to actually be productive.
Exactly. One of the issues that has happened because of why you're running out of space in a lot of these areas is because of the fact that we've only made neighborhoods that are single family dwellings. So you have a single family dwelling area, period. And you don't make any kind of like apartment buildings or anything else. Like in my specific area, there's maybe 2 apartment buildings, and they're like really close to the highway. And, then the subdivisions are somewhere else. And now, of course, when you go in the bigger cities, then you have more like row houses where you can get a lot more people in a very small space. Maybe if they could come up with row house communities throughout Texas, row house communities throughout Louisiana, they used to do it. Here you can still see, they did it in San Francisco. Why can't they do it again?
I guess my question is, how do you make affordable housing? And you're going to have to raise taxes on people. And I think that's where, in the middle of a pandemic, and we're still seeing where we're having to print money, how do you
It's
tax?
not sustainable.
It's not. So I love the idea of affordable housing. Trust me, I have so many clients that are desperate to find a home. And I know agents all over that have clients that need something affordable, and just affordability is the hardest part of all this. And that's why we may potentially see a burping of the bubble. Is because
a burping before the bust.
burping before the bust.
I do want to say thank you to Steve Mayfield for giving the $5 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Whoop, whoop.
That was official. Yeah, is going to be there's maybe what you're saying though. Well, with that burp and bubble kind of busting kind of thing, when they do the correction, it won't, like, all of a sudden it won't seem like things are so bad. But if they do it wrong, then we're going to see a pop. So actually that kind of makes sense. If they do this next, they've already said this next stimulus is like literally like a Band-Aid on a heart attack. It's just to kind of keep us moving the ball down the road a little bit further. But the one after that, if they're creative and work to create economy that will work for the lower and middle class, because we spend money. We're the ones who spend it, not the upper class. They don't spend it. They already have everything they need. If they give the money in the right hands, then, that could help. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just enjoying all your comments.
Wayne says, my opinion is the housing is a Ponzi scheme. Both buyers and sellers are in transactions for themselves. Realtors are not social workers. I totally 100% understand what you're saying. I really do. But here's where the issue comes in. Because on the surface of what a real estate agent does, I get, as a consumer, it seems like all we're doing is showing a house, we're opening the door, and like, it's all fun and games. What people don't see on the outside, or what we're doing behind, we are sweating to keep these deals together. You've got sellers that are totally being unreasonable because their offers are over what they should be. You have buyers that are so desperate, and they'll say things which honestly get them in trouble and end up costing them more money. They don't understand inspection reports. They're asking for things to be repaired that shouldn't be asked for, like cosmetic stuff, paint, which is dumb. And then the sellers put the house back on the market. Then the buyers aren't really happy. If they didn't have a real estate agent to diffuse these kinds of situations, not only that, understanding addendums, contracts, all the things you have to do is engineering certificates, all the wood destroying insect certificates, all the things that we have learned because of experience, they are in the long run are going to get boned because they lost out on a lot of money, or the sellers could have gained more money if they just listened to a real estate agent in the first place. Just saying.
There'd be a lot more lawsuits out there for sure.
Yeah, because the thing is that sellers, we protect buyers and sellers, because a lot of times sellers forget that they have done things to their house, and they're supposed to fill out a property disclosure. And so once you're reading these things that need to be addressed, they'll say, "Oh, we did replace that hot water heater." But when you replace that hot water heater, what made you replace it? Oh, you should have seen it. The whole roof fell through right here. Well, we need to put that on that property disclosure. And they wouldn't have thought about it because they fixed it. Everything was done. Like where they put the brand new water heater in there, they think there's no reason to disclose it because it's fixed. But you have to disclose all that information. And if they don't, they can get sued.
I always love the one where somebody files a roof claim, or just a claim in general, doesn't fix the work, puts the house in the market, and then the deal falls through because the insurance company that is going to be the buyer's insurance company says, "Hey, well, where's the information from the roof repair?" And there's no roof repair, but it shows that there was a claim filed, and so pretty much it nukes the entire deal. That's a good one.
Wayne said something smart. He said in the 50s, the average home size was 1,000 square feet. Homes are unaffordable due to the higher demand for larger homes. And Wayne, I'm going to tell you that the demand for smaller homes has increased exponentially but no builder wants to build smaller homes. They want to build bigger homes because price per square foot, they can get more. But if you could make like postage stamped lots like they did years ago and made little tiny houses, those communities for people younger and older, because believe it or not, the tiny home movement, as much as that people want to say it's a bunch of young hippies, more elderly people are buying them, people over the age of 65 that are in the retirement age. Think about this. If you made a retirement community full of tiny little homes that were under 1,000 square feet, those would sell like hotcakes. I think that there's a missed opportunity, first of all, finding affordable housing. And that the older generation knows how to take care of a property. You can make a beautiful subdivision by doing something like that. Just saying.
Well, here's the problem with those affordable housing. We have that. In Austin, we have neighborhoods where they'll start out, and I'm going to give you affordable, and you're going to be like, "Well, that's not affordable." But what properties that start in the low 200s, right, 225. By the end of the build out, the builders are increasing their prices $3 to $4 grand every month. Because once they sell 8 or 9 lots, they increase the price. So homes that start in neighborhood 225 end up at 290 to 300 by the end of the build. So the neighborhood at the end doesn't really become as affordable, yet the people that got in early, that waited for the 6-7 years for the whole neighborhood to be built out, they'd have some decent equity when they sell.
I've always said, always buy the first house in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You have to deal with a lot of baloney with getting nails in your tire and everything, but you always want to be the first. All right. I just, my prediction for the house, you have a more bullish opinion about the housing market and how it's going to recover. And because there is nothing to recover right now. Everybody's like, well, the sun is shining, everything's rosy, but I have a bleaker perspective on it.
I definitely don't. I don't have a sun is shining outlook on what's going to happen. I do think that there is going to be a change. I do think, Lord Humongous, I think that's how they said it, said something that property taxes, in one of his comments, property taxes will be the downfall of property owners, something to that effect. I think that is going to be the biggest, especially in Texas. That is going to be probably the one thing nobody had on their radar. And then people are going to look back at this podcast or live stream and be like, that's the first person to say anything about property taxes.
Do you think that because of the property taxes becoming so unaffordable in Texas, because they're raising so high, that it's possible that they would adopt a state tax to offset some of the property taxes for people?
Um, they proposed it in the past in Texas, and it didn't get very far.
I was gonna say probably didn't
Um,
fly over. That's gross.
Again, too many guns in Texas for that. So, uh, I've heard people say that. Well, what if they do a 2% tax? I think the mindset in Texas is that, oh, if we have a 2% state tax to alleviate homeowners, then it's going to become 3%. Then it's going to become 4%. Then it's going to become 5%. And then you're going to see the very same thing. The reason I left California in 2012, they went from like 9% to 11%. And I was like, I'm done. I was starting to sell real estate. And Lord Humongous always also said real estate agents love them commissions, though. Try being a business owner. I will tell you,
Let me just explain one
it is
thing. I'm gonna take.
not easy being a business owner, and it's not easy being a real estate agent. So I appreciate the comment,
Oh,
but yes,
hold
we
on.
love those. We love those commissions after the hours and hours and hours and hours of work, and like
Let me just
being the
tell you how
Band-Aid
much I love
master.
a commission, because I'm just taking extreme offense to this right now. There was a client of mine that lost a house because the guy took a forbearance at the end of his loan. So we had to find her another house. She ends up finding her for sale by owner. The house was overpriced. I told her that when she was purchasing it. The house did not appraise. The homeowner was so hell bent on her not selling it for a dime less. Do you know who took the hit on that commission? Me. I lost $3,500 because it was like 10 days before this girl closed. She already lost 2 houses. That meant home inspections, appraisals. She couldn't afford it because this was her first house. So I took the $3,500 loss. And I didn't make any money on the last 2 properties that I had showed her that she had been under contract. So don't tell me that it's all about the commission. Because it's, for me as a real estate agent, it's not all about the commission. And I know for Jeremy, it's not all about the commission. So, I mean, I might have got on my soapbox a little bit, but I know that's a perspective that some people have. And yes, some real estate agents are like that. You just have to find the right one. And I'm not like that. And Jeremy's not like that. And I know many others that are not.
Yeah, we have a good bubble of agent friends. I mean, we run around the same group of agent friends. And I think the reason why we like our group of friends is because
we're not realtors.
yeah. I mean,
we're not the typical real estate agents.
The slimy, salesy person
Makes us want to throw up.
Yeah, that's the used car salesman drives me nuts. You know, I've told those, you know, we run around the same YouTube channels, and I tell these people, stop trying to sell people yourself. Just give them the information they want and
be human.
You know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. All right.
Yeah,
well.
Whatever. Nally says this. It says, I've been looking for a house in Nevada. My real estate agent said this is not the market for us right now. That we need to look for a mortgage broker. What does that mean? What she's saying is probably the houses are overinflated, and she feels that the prices are probably, or I'm saying she, I'm not saying it could be a he. Anyways, what they're saying is basically the houses they believe are overpriced right now. They believe that the market is going to drop. They want you to meet with a mortgage company right now. So that way you're prepared for when the prices do decrease a little bit. So that way you can get into the house and get a good deal on it and feel comfortable that you haven't lost a lot of equity jumping into a house, right now.
That's an interesting thing for an agent to say, though. I'm perplexed by you need to find a mortgage broker. It could be something to do with their financing.
I was going to say it could be a credit thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
I would have to see their personal information.
I've
They said we'd love to have a tiny home. Look, see, Mike says I would love to have a tiny, maybe next year. You can get a PMRV and you can drive around in it. Just make sure your local covenants will allow you to have it in the driveway, because some of them will not. They'll say, no, get it out of your driveway.
Here's the going back to that mortgage question. Here's the thing that as far as things agents tell people, this is the one thing that really pisses me off, and it's agents telling that start working with a client. They have they go into multiple offers, like we're seeing in my market, and maybe it's a thing in my market more than most markets. But I've had people that are VA, that are veterans, that have risked their life for us, be told by agents to that they need to change and go to conventional and not use VA. That offends me more than anything. That means that agent is frustrated because they haven't got them under contract. I get that. It's tough. I mean, you're trying, you're writing offers, but the most offensive thing you can do, I think, to a VA is say, go to conventional, because the VA is such a better avenue for someone. Yes, I understand it's tough right now in this market to beat a conventional offer, but sell your client to the other side. That's
Well,
what you have to do.
I think the whole thing is that you're wanting to get the best deal possible. And then if like I had it not too long ago, they were the people I represented, the buyer, the selling agent said, well, we're not going to take it, even though your offer was more because it's VA. And I said, hold up. Is it because of the paperwork? And she's like, well, she said, well, it takes a little bit longer to close. I say, okay, well, listen, if it, from what I'm hearing from my lender, I will cover the paperwork. I'll do the extra paperwork to get it done for my clients because they really do need this house. They have to move here. They're limited on time, and we're going to push it as quickly as possible. So if we can, if they accept our offer, we'll go ahead and order the appraisal tomorrow, and then we'll forego the inspection period time as well. We're going to get that done tomorrow, and that's how she won the deal. Is because we were hustling right away, and we did. It took 45 days, which it was still way better than like the whatever time it normally takes, but which is about 65 days. But
yeah,
I mean,
and it depends too. If you're using a really good local lender, they'll get it done still in 30 days. You have to have the right people on your team to make sure you're going to win. Liquid Realty says, why is it better? I think they're referring to the VA. Well, especially in Texas, property taxes, if you're 100% disabled vet, you don't pay property taxes in Texas, depending on the area. So it would be better to use a VA, especially if you want to take advantage of not having property taxes.
This is my friend Carlos de la Cruz. I think this is him, or DCG. He says, for the commission loss, he gave me a super chat of $5. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah. I mean, we give up commissions all the time to make a deal work. And nobody understands how many hours we put in to just even get that person as a lead to begin with. All the hours that goes into every single video that we do, every single piece of marketing, even as little as a little tiny picture that you see as a thumbnail on a video is hours worth of work. Everything is to help move us forward to meet more people that are interested in the same things that we're interested in. And a lot of these things we're getting paid zero.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of agents out there that spend thousands of dollars on Zillow advertising, that spend thousands of dollars just to get a buyer or a client, spend thousands of dollars on just marketing. I'll give you a prime example. We do a lot of drop by things, and we do a lot of things to our past clients. And we had a past client that during Thanksgiving, I saw their home list. I was like, what? I've been by their house. I've called them. I've talked to them. I've been by several times. I've been to their baby showers. They didn't list with me. What in the world? Oh, we got a better deal with somebody else, so we went with
I don't even care. I'm like, whatever. I don't even care.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
All right.
Yeah, you gotta just move on. Wayne says, homes are like hotel rooms. If you stay at the cheapest hotel room, you will inherit a lot of riffraff. Same with homes. Wise to pay more for better area economic segregation. I think that like that's one of those things the way that the United States was set up years ago, they specifically what they call redlined areas, and they purposely put, like when they say, oh, over the tracks, they did it on purpose. They put poor people over there, and that's why they didn't get as many benefits, and they didn't have as many good schools and everything else. And then on the other side, they did it on purpose. It's terrible. There's
really somebody smart on your channel here. Make sure you smash the like button. I like that person.
Yeah. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit this Mr. button here, the Mr. thumbs up button. Jeremy, is there anything?
An hour and what? 8 minutes? Come on, we're enjoying this train. Let's go. Let's talk some more.
If you want to talk some more, we can talk some more. If
I talk to you for hours during the week, might as well talk to you for multiple hours on a live stream.
This is true. when it comes to affordable housing, if you look at the history of the United States, there's only one time in history that they really worked with people. I'd say two times. One of them was after the Great Depression, but they only offered home loans to white families. And I'm not trying to get political, but this is 100% true. Those families, those same families that were able to get affordable home loans to purchase houses were the ones that over the time were able to gain wealth. Those people that did not buy homes during that time, their families either remained flat, didn't get ahead nearly as much, or they were in red line districts where you couldn't gain any wealth. So that's sad, but it can be done. Maybe they offer better loans to people that are making less money. Like the maybe a zero interest loan for people that are making less than $100,000 a year for the first like 10 years. And then they have interest after that, something like that. So that way it entices people that don't have a lot of money to either put down or they don't have jobs. So there's some people I know that have worked a job making $65,000 a year for the last 7 years, but they just don't have enough to purchase their own house. What if you could find a house for $100,000? You can't even get a home loan for less than $65,000. That's in the crime in itself. The people that want to buy a house for $65,000 or less have to buy it as a personal loan. And guess what? That's predatory because then they have to pay higher interest. Makes no sense whatsoever. Makes no sense. And it's terrible because rich people are getting richer. Those bankers are like, well, you don't make enough money. I'm going to make even more money off you. So why would we take more money from people that don't make money? I don't know. That's my soapbox moment. What are you doing, Jeremy?
Liquid Reality and Lord Humongous, shout outs to both of you. I'm enjoying your comments. Graham Stephan, if you follow him, he put out a video the other day and he said something very that I was not aware of. So and it kind of piggybacks a little bit of what you're saying. So Freddie Mac and God, how did I just
Fannie
Mae and Freddie Mac. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're private companies and they've been kind of taken over right now. And so they're trying to become private again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in order for this to happen, you have to have government loans that are backed by government programs in order
Correct.
to do that. Right. So I'm in agreement that we should definitely look at programs that would help those people. But then you got to get sellers on the backside of that. You do have to find sellers that are willing to sell to those people as well, right? Not, you have to have a home there. So do we, are there neighborhoods that we build out to help this? I think there's definitely some opportunity there. But what he was saying is that they are increasing 0.5% on refinances now. For a government-backed loan. So if you have a government-backed loan right now and you're trying to refi, you're getting charged another 0.5% on top of that. And, he's saying basically, interest rates are so low on a refi, it really doesn't make difference, but it's kind of why are they doing that? And he says what he was thinking is primarily what they're doing is they're trying to buy out and raise capital to buy out and go back to being private and getting out of the government's claw.
That's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of depressing. I actually have to make dinner. That's why we have to close this up. I want to thank everybody, all 208 of you, for sticking around and talking to Jeremy and I. Look, Jeremy and I will be in the comments section. I may not answer every single one of your comments once this thing is published, but we do read every single one of them. If there's any specific question that you have for Jeremy in his Austin market, make sure you put it in the comment section below, and you can just tag Jeremy in the comment section. Yep. Jeremy's going to be checking it as well. You can also check out Jeremy's channel, which is Jeremy Knight and the Knight Group. Correct, isn't it? Or
yeah, it's funny. I've had people try to correct me. It is correct. Jeremy Knight, You're Moving to Austin Guide. It cuts it off and just says You're Moving to Austin. So the apostrophe RE is what they think it's supposed to be, but no, it's You're Moving to Austin Guide.
Well, Jeremy Knight, you have the longest freaking channel name in the world.
I know. I got to shorten that up at some point.
Yeah, oh my God, that is so long. Yeah, just say Austin real estate agent. Leave it at that. Yeah. Austin realtor.
Yeah. Hi, Eddie.
I want to thank everybody for coming in. I really do. This was a great conversation. And Jeremy, I'd love to do this with you again.
Sure.
So hopefully we can see you in the future. Bye,
Absolutely.
everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming in.
Smile more. Yes.
Smile
Okay.
more. Bye.
Bye.
Have a great Sunday.
Bye.